here, do this here, do this here. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, what I want to do is go ahead and get this live started. You all see me post in the group several times a week. I'm going to do better about that. What I wanted to do is come on this live and do a couple of things. One, I wanted to share why I'm promoting these pads, and two, wanted to give some background, some reasoning behind why you have a guy who's talking about and selling pads. One of the questions I get all the time is how or why is a guy selling pads? This is a taboo subject. This is something that it's not discussed very often. And one of the things that I'm proud to say is that I'm part of this campaign, and like many other men, I used to be ignorant of this subject, and just it's something that I wanted to be able to be a part of the solution instead of the problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump right into the demonstration that we do whenever we sit down, when we meet with someone, whenever we talk about these pads, when we discuss these pads. First thing we're going to bring up is the store-bought pads. This is an always sanitary napkin. And the first thing that I want to bring up about it, outside of it being big and bulky, is the fact that there are pockets, the fact that there are slits. They do not seal this product. I don't know if you can see that very well, but there's slits in here so that they can make sure that the package breathes. They want to make sure that it doesn't keep all the chemicals and the fumes inside, so this doesn't balloon up and puff up. They use a duct tape grade adhesive on their pads. And so that's one issue that they have, is that it has a lot of chemicals in it. And that's the first issue that we're going to bring up. The thing that I want to show you in comparison to their pads is ours is thinner and ours is smaller. And that is for discreetness, that's for comfort, and that's because we understand that women don't want to use big, bulky, diaper-like pads. So what we're going to do is we're going to undo these here and give you a comparison, a side-by-side comparison as to what the store-bought pads are like and then what our pads are like. So I'm going to do here is we're going to move this out the way here, and we're going to put that right there so that everyone can see. And the first thing I want you to make note of is that this is a 10-hour protection system. Their claim is that this will protect you for up to 10 hours. And I just want to start off by saying I haven't met a single woman who's been able to wear her pad for the entire 10 hours when it comes to the store-bought pads. And then what I want to do with our pad is we're going to do like to like. We're going to use their heavy pad with our heavy pad. So we're going to lay ours right next to theirs. And the very first thing that we're going to point out is the top of their pad is rough. The top of their pad is abrasive because the very first layer on their pad is rayon. It's a synthetic plastic. It's man-made because it's cheap, it's inexpensive, and that's what they're using. Now, compared to theirs, ours is a soft cotton blend. It feels like the same material that women use for their undergarments or their underwear or their panties. And so the compliment we get the most about these and the way they feel is that women say that they oftentimes forget that they have it on because it's so soft and it's so dry. So we're going to move to the first part of the demonstration. What I have here is a measuring cup. Gynecologists and doctors and medical professionals have told us that on an average day, when a woman is having her cycle, she's going to give off 15 to 50 millimeters of fluid on average. Now, I know some women will give off more, some women will give off less. Everyone's different, so what we're using is an average. So what I have here is 50 milliliters of water that we're going to simulate a full day of flow. The first pad I'm going to use is their pad. We're going to call it Exhibit A for example purposes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this water, I'm going to try to slowly pour it on here and hopefully not get it all on the table. and we're going to pour it so that it all gets on the pad. And we're going to do the exact same thing with our pad, the Jewel Premium Sanitary napkins. So we're going to fill it up to 50 milliliters, and we're going to pour this on the Jewel pads. Same thing, I'm going to pour it all the way through to simulate a full day of flow. Do that there. Put this out of the way. And a couple of things that I want to start off with is the fact that, press a button here, the fact that when it comes to women and their cycles, one of the reasons why women don't like wearing pads is because traditionally they're ineffective. They're dealing with this uncomfortable feeling. They're dealing with this wetness, this sogginess. They're dealing with having this self-conscious feeling of, does everyone know that I'm on my cycle because I'm wearing this big bulky pad? And so one of the things that we at Jewel Premium Sanitary Napkins wanted to do was we wanted to provide a solution, because women are not only using bad pads, but they're also using tampons. And the thing is, when it comes to tampons and the traditional pads, they're using chemicals, harsh chemicals in their pads. One of the things that I want to point out is that when women wear these pads, they're having to face the fact that they're sitting on trash. Now, many women don't know this because they haven't done any real research. Now, I've met a handful of women who are wearing organic pads and have done some research about the materials that they're using. But many times whenever I talk to women, they don't understand that what's happening is they're sitting on trash, that the companies that are producing these pads, they're using recycled material from the landfill to create their pads, to produce their pads, and to raise up their profit margin. So it just makes sense as a business to buy your materials low and sell them high. And one of the things that we want to do with the Justice for My Jewel campaign is explain to women and make women aware that the pads that they're using, the traditional store-bought pads, are made out of trash. And by trash, I mean recycled newspaper, wood pulp fibers, and recycled magazines. And so what they do is they take these materials, they put them through a fine shredding process, and then they also bleach the chemicals or bleach the products and the materials that they're using. Traditionally, those products are going to be a brownish color, but what they use is they use chlorine, they use bleach, they use formaldehyde, they use acetone, all these different things to make their pads white. That's so that they can appear clean, so they can appear pure, they can appear safe to use for the women. And that's not always the case, because one of the things that you have to understand is whenever you use bleach to whiten anything, it gives off a byproduct called dioxin. Dioxin is hundreds of times deadlier than arsenic. It's 10 times deadlier than cyanide. There are no safe levels of consumption for humans when it comes to that chemical. And one of the things that we like to do is share with the public and share with the women who are going to be looking at these pads and considering using these pads is, one, they're ineffective. One of the things I asked you to make a note of was that this was a 10-hour protection system. Make sure you can see that. 10 hours. Like I said, very few times have I ever talked to a woman and they've said that they've been able to use a pad for 10 hours or 8 hours. I've heard a woman say that they've used them for around 6 hours, but they did say it was uncomfortable. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take this regular napkin. I'm going to put this napkin on this pad, and I poured 50 milliliters of water on this pad, and what we're going to do is I'm just simply going to put some pressure on here. And what happens is exactly what we would expect to happen. I just poured 50 milliliters of water on here, and this napkin didn't, or this pad didn't hold for more than 3 or 4 minutes. And so this is why women do not like wearing pads. This is why women take risks and wear tampons instead of using regular traditional pads. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave this right here. I'm going to take another napkin. Move this out of the way here. We're going to take this napkin, we're going to place it on top of the Jewel Premium Sanitary napkin. I'm gonna use the other hand and put some pressure, more pressure, more pressure, more pressure. And the napkin comes up completely dry. This is the first major difference between their pad and our pad. And so the question is very simple. Which one do you think either you yourself or your sister, your niece, your cousin, your friend, which one of these pads would they like to use? Would they rather be dry and comfortable or wet and irritable? Now, just for example's sakes, we're going to take this one, we'll move it to the side. I'm going to use this same napkin that I put on a Jewel Premium Sanitary napkin. I'm going to place it on Exhibit A. Just so that you see, there's no games here. We'll put it right back on the pad for Exhibit A. Exact same thing happened. Ours beats them hands down. So we're going to take this, move this out of the way, but we're going to take it a step further. One of the things that we always do when it comes to demonstrating how effective our pads are is we like to dissect the pads, because very few times, if a woman has not done the research into what's in their pad, they're not going to understand what they're sitting on. They're not going to understand how serious this is, because they've just been conditioned. They've been programmed to wear these pads just because that's what they were told to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to take this apart without making too big of a mess, just so that we can see what's on the inside and we can compare the two. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull off their first layer here. And a couple of things that I want to make note of is the first layer, I'll move this out the way. The first layer is still damp, is still wet. And what I want to point out is this blue strip here, this design is for their quote-unquote absorbency system. This blue design here is nothing more than blue dye. Okay, one of the things that we have to get women to understand is that this blue dye has absolutely nothing to do with helping this pad become more absorbent. What's happening is they're putting it there just so that it looks fancy. In fact, I did this presentation for someone last week, and they said, you know what, I really believe that is dye, because on the ones that come in the blue packages, the dye is blue. The ones that come in the orange packages, the dye is orange. Has absolutely nothing to do with becoming or helping the pad be more absorbent. And again, what I said was the first layer is made out of rayon. It's tough, it's abrasive, and it's harsh. If I were to take this and rub this on my hand and I kept rubbing it, it would aggravate it. And that's what this is. And that's why women feel, when it comes to that time when they're on their cycle, they're dealing with vaginal rawness, they're dealing with itchiness, they're dealing with irritation, rashes, and they're just uncomfortable. One of my employees shared with me that it causes chafing. And so that's because of this rough, man-made material. And that's from Exhibit A. And then let's look at the different layers of the Jewel Premium Sanitary napkin. I'll pull this off here. And we're going to look at the... Oh, and one thing I failed to mention was that one of the compliments we get is the 3D suspension leak guards that a lot of women compliment us on, because it helps to keep the flow from leaking onto the wings and messing up their clothes. So I should have mentioned that first, but what I'm going to do is tear this off here. Just like we went over the first layer of theirs, we're going to go over the first layer or top layer of ours. So there's two things here. There's a strip on here that we're going to discuss here in just a moment. Try to pull this off without tearing it. Put that to the side. And this is the first layer of our pads. First thing that I want to show is that it's porous. There are holes in it. That's because one of the things we want to make sure is that our women have breathability when it comes to that time of the month. Whenever you don't have breathability, you have all that trash that we just talked about locked up in there, and that's what causes the smell. That's what causes the issues that women are dealing with. And so we have holes and we have this porous and it's soft. Instead of it being this man-made plastic, this rayon, this is soft. It's cotton. It's a cotton blend. It's soft, and this is what you want touching, the first thing touching the most sensitive part of your body, ladies. And then what we're going to do is we're going to look at the actual absorbency system for their pads. In fact, what I'm going to do now, pull out 2 cups here. Let's do this here. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some water in here to help with showing the effectiveness of our absorbency system. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to fill up 2 cups of water. Okay. So what I'm going to ask is which one of these cups has the least amount of water in it? Now obviously it's this cup because it has little less than half the amount of this water here. And we're going to see why in just a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up their absorbency system, and like I mentioned earlier, they used recycled materials. Now if you could see this, if you could look at it like I'm looking at it, it's a different shade than just white. It's like an off-white color. And again, the reason why is because this is not cotton. This is recycled newspapers, wood chip fibers, and magazines and other things that they've shredded up very finely and they've bleached to make it appear white, to appear clean, and appear like it's safe. So what we're going to do is we're going to take their absorbency system, we're going to fold it up here, and we're going to put it in this cup of water, because this is the cup that had the least amount of water in it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to undo our absorbency system. Now while I do this, I want to mention and make known that we use a plant-based polymer instead of recycled trash. This is the exact same material that's used in natural baby diapers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this polymer right after I just put 50 milliliters of water, pouring 50 milliliters of water into there. I'm going to put it into the cup with the most amount of water in here. Now while I put that there, and we're going to sit that right there in front of you, we're going to look at the bottom layer of their pads. Now the bottom layer of their pads has no holes, which means there's no breathability. And then another thing, it's very tough. It's plastic and it's hard to rip. What this is, ladies and gentlemen, is the same material that your trash bags are made out of. In fact, I had somebody say it's just as tough as a Walmart bag because it's just plastic, ladies and gentlemen. Now, eventually this will rip. But the reason why I want to point this out is because this is nothing more than a trash bag that contains trash. That means it's trapping all of everything, all of the flow that's coming out of our women, and it's keeping it locked up in there. You have, in many cases, blood, sometimes urine, polyps, and blood clots, and it's all in this trash bag, again, with no holes, no breathability. And what we like to say is that's a perfect recipe and petri dish for bacteria. And that's why a lot of our women are dealing with fibroids. That's why they're dealing with endometriosis, cervical cancer, and things of that nature, because not only are they being exposed to the blue dye, the chemicals that are in the wood chip fibers and the magazines and all that stuff, they're having to take the brunt of all the waste that's coming out of the women's body. And there's nowhere for the smell to go. There's nowhere for the toxins to be released. And so that's one of the things that I wanted to point out about Exhibit A. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to pull up the Jewel Premium Sanitary napkin back. And this is another one of our layers. Soft cotton that's in place to help with the absorbency system. Again, soft cotton, and unlike the plastic that they use. We're going to pull this up here. Now this is the very bottom layer of our pads. Now, if you can see these lines going across, what that is microfiber holes. And that's designed to give the women breathability, to make sure that there's some circulation. Because when you're sitting on top of your flow, ladies and gentlemen, that's where the smell is coming from. That's where the odor is coming from. And what we want to do is make sure that you have breathability and circulation when it comes to using the pads. Another thing is, unlike the plastic that we just went over with this one, this is a soft cotton blend that's designed to be biodegradable, soft, pliable, and not only safe for you, but it's safe for the environment. And there's no way I could have torn this plastic from Exhibit A just like I'm doing this one. And so every aspect of our pad is better than theirs. And so now we're going to move this over to the side, and I want to share with you why we put the water in the cups. So we're going to move this over. Now, two things here. I poured 50 milliliters of water in both pads, and then I also put water in the cup just so that we could look at how well the absorbency system works. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to pick up theirs, and if you'll notice that this water is still coming out of here. Two things. Wood chip fibers, magazines, and newspapers are not designed to absorb water, and so much less the blood that's going to be coming out during your cycle. And if I held this up and I squeezed this, I could probably get every drop of water out of here that I poured into the cup. And that's because these pads are not designed to help our women. A couple of things that I want to make note of is that our women are sitting on trash, and then the companies that are producing these pads understand that they're not as effective. And here in a moment, you're going to see why our packages are so small, is because we have women that tell us, well, whenever I go to the store and I purchase my pads, I'll get about 29 or 28, 30 or more pads in a pack. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the reason why. Because it's not designed to absorb. And so if we let this sit here, you'll see that the water is going to turn a light shade of yellow. And that's because of the chemicals that are coming out in the water. And so if it's bleeding out into this water, understand this. It's also going back into your bloodstream, ladies and gentlemen. And so we're going to put this here. And just like I shared with you that they use the recycled material and we use a polymer, we use a plant-based polymer that is designed to absorb water, absorb fluid, and it's going to make and help our women stay comfortable and dry for much longer. Now, what we did was we pulled this out. It was still dripping water. And what I'm going to share with you now is that we had a passerby looking at me doing the demonstration here. And so what I want to show you here is I just poured, I filled this cup up with halfway full of water. Now the question is, where'd the water go? This is what makes our pad stand out or stand apart from this pad here. It's much more absorbent. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take it a step further. I'm actually going to turn it over. And what we've just done is we've turned a liquid into a gel. This cup had much more water than this one. And the water is not coming out. The absorption system, or the system of absorbency, is designed to pull the fluid away from the woman's body. And if you could touch it, you would see that it's cool. That's because we understand that the woman's body is running hotter than normal. I'll pull this off here. It's running hotter than normal during that time of the month. And so this is cool by design. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour this back in here. And we're going to move these out of the way. And we're going to move on to the last part of our demonstration, which is this strip here. Now, we could have left the pads at good and made sure that our women just had a great system of absorbency, but we decided to make them great. And so what this is a algae strip that's infused with graphene technology. And for those of you who don't know what graphene is, I want to encourage you to do your own research, to look it up, to Google it, go to WebMD, look up what is graphene and the benefits of it. Now, the gentleman who discovered graphene in 2004 won the Nobel Prize, or was awarded the Nobel Prize in 2009 because of the benefits of graphene and the type of material that it is and has been proven to be. And there are a few benefits that come with having this graphene material infused in our pads. The main benefit that I want to share with you all, and I'm going to pull out here, this is a 7-watt light bulb. This 7-watt light bulb is not the exact same type of lights that if you look up and they're in your ceiling fan or in your light bulbs at your house. This is a low wattage light bulb that is designed to light up whenever it senses energy. And one of the things that this algae strip contains and this graphene contains is self-sustained energy, or natural vibrational energy. And what's going to happen with this light bulb, whenever it senses energy, it's going to light up. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it right up to the strip, and that's what happens whenever we put it on the graphene. Now, many people ask the question, is that electricity? And what I don't want you to do is confuse energy and electricity. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take some water and I'm going to pour it on the strip. In fact, let's do this. Because I don't know about you, but the last time I got any electronics wet, it didn't work. So I put some water on here just to make sure that you understand that this is not electricity. And the thing is, when it's wet, it works better. And so what this is going to do is not only help you with fighting bacteria, which is going to significantly reduce or eliminate the odor, it's also going to help with shortening the cycle period. It's also going to help with inflammation. It's going to help with your mood. It's going to help with so many other things. And we're not making any type of medical claims. We're not making any type of health claims. This is all from testimonies that we've received from our satisfied customers. And so what I wanted to do was simply do a demonstration of what's different between the traditional store-bought pads and then the Jewel Premium Sanitary napkins. I'm pretty certain that if you've watched this, you can tell that ours are more effective, more absorbent, and it just makes sense to use the Jewel pads than it does to continue using store-bought pads. Or if you're not looking at this for yourself, to make sure that your nieces, your daughters, your sisters, cousins, other women in your life are using this pad instead of the traditional store-bought pad. So I'm gonna put this away. And there's a couple of things that I want to make sure we mention. We have a campaign called Justice for My Jewel, and that's one of the things that I got excited about, because not only are we selling a much more superior product, but we're also here to educate women on a global basis. We want to make sure that we help women understand that they need to move away from using traditional store-bought pads that have toxins and chemicals in them and move to the Jewel Premium Sanitary napkins. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to slide these over. We have 4 variations. We have our light or very light, which is our panty liner. We have our moderate flow, we have our heavy flow, and then we have our super heavy flow. What I want you to do, if you haven't already done so, is I want you to go to the website, sheshouldknow.com. It should be in several of the posts below this video. So I want you to go to the website, do your own research. Don't take my word for it. Do your own research. Look at some of the articles, some of the interviews, and the stories that I've posted in this group. And then if somebody invited you to watch this, look and see what videos, articles they've posted, and educate yourself on the dangers of traditional store-bought products such as their pads and their tampons, and look how beneficial and the different testimonies we have of women using our Jewel Premium Sanitary napkins. So what I want to do is I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for checking out this video. And just like I shared with you all, for taking the time to watch this and listen and learn why our pads are superior and they work better than your traditional store-bought pads, definitely want to make sure that you're entered into our drawing this month. And so what I'm going to ask for everyone to do before you log off is just to simply click on the wow emoji just so that I can know you were here, and we're going to get you an entry into the drawing. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have another live next week. I'm going to see if I can get somebody to join me. More than likely it'll be my brother. But I want to make sure that we continue to raise the awareness for this campaign and for this incredible product that we have. So once again, I want to thank you for your time. Make sure you click on that wow emoji just so that I can see you were here. I've seen people come in, go out, and I'm using my phone this time, so I just want to make sure that I know who was here and that I can keep up and keep track with who needs to get another entry into the drawing. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this live. I'm going to say thank you, wish that you have a good evening, and if you have any questions, simply inbox me, send me a message, or shoot me a text message. I'll be happy to answer any questions that I can, and be on the lookout for more